Hey, what's going on, everyone? Eggy here, and I have an actual commentary today. I normally do all of my videos live commentary just because, I don't know, I don't like to go back and redo them. I think it's kind of lame. I mean, sometimes some videos require it, and it's kind of hard to do like a quality commentary, so I'm not one of those qualitary, oh my gosh, I'm not one of those quality commentators. I just play games, and when I feel like uploading a game that I've been playing, I'll do it. So I just kind of recently started uploading a whole series of a game, so kind of like a let's play, but not really because I don't care what it is. It's just me playing games, and it's for my own, I guess, collection. I just wanted my YouTube collection to grow, and that was about it. Excuse me. Yeah, I just want to have a variety of games to look at just because I don't know. I like to watch people play video games, and sometimes I like to go back and watch stuff that I did. It kind of relive the magic or something, kind of. Anyways, what I wanted to talk about was some of my work history today. I had been thinking about it for a while, and it seemed kind of sad, but it wasn't sad. It's I don't know. It's work history. About 3 years ago, I was pretty fortunate enough to land a job where I get to weld and build stuff and like create stuff, and I love this job to death. It pretty much like saved my life, kind of. So I wanted to talk about how I got there. So about 6 years ago, I was working at a no longer than that, like 8 years ago. I started off because I was going to school, and so I didn't really give a crap about jobs. I was like, I'll just do this job for whatever. And I had like, I don't know, like five different like part-time jobs. And then I like stopped going to school for a bit, and I was like, well, I should just try and focus on getting a full-time job. So I did. And I used to rollerblade. I still rollerblade, but aggressive inline, fruit boot, whatever the hell you want to call it. I I had some friends that told me about this job, some rollerblading friends that one of them had worked at for a while, and he got one of our other friends a job there. So I was like, well, I'm only working at a part-time job at Lowe's, so what the hell, why not? So I kind of took it, and it was awesome. It was freaking so much fun for like the first like year, 2 years, because it was pretty much a warehouse full of rollerbladers, and like these are like some of my best friends, like ever. Like some of the people that I've met in the rollerblading community are some of the most awesome people. They're the realest people I've ever met, and I don't know, it's just so cool. It was so awesome to be able to work with some of my good friends. So it was so much fun, and it was amazing. And then after like the first year it was cool, and then the second year it kind of started slowing down, and then that's when like the crunch hit, and like everything slowed down. Especially I live in the Central Valley of California, and it's really like when the big economy crunch hit, it like everything like just dropped. And in the world of retail, if you don't know, retail based its hours off of sales. So if sales aren't good, you don't get good hours. There's no point in staffing um, people if they're not selling anything. So I mean, it makes sense. It's kind of a false economy, but that's what we're based off of in the United States. So especially in the Central Valley, because either you work in retail or you work in agriculture, something in agriculture. And I was just going to school, so I was like, oh yeah, I died. I don't know how the hell that shotgun. I thought the shotgun was awesome. Oh, I'm playing Resident Evil, by the way. I didn't record the audio, the live commentary, because my wife was here, and she was making kind of a lot of noise. So I was just like, well, I feel like playing, but I figure I might be able to do something like this. So anyways, explanation for that. So I died, and I'm restarting. Uh, so yeah, I went to school. I wanted to go to school for like graphic design and like computer science, and it was fine, and I was spending a lot of money, and I didn't take out any loans. So I just worked my way through school, and working then after getting a full-time job, I just put school off for a while, and I didn't really didn't really give too much thought about it because I was having a lot of fun. And but then once the economy slowed down and everything just came to like a screeching halt, like seriously, I went from like 40 plus hours to like lucky if I got 25 to 30. And then that's when I was like, well, I'll stick with this job just because I literally applied. Like I remember I saved up like $1,000, like more than $1,000. Well, that was kind of a lot for me at the time because I was living with roommates and my girlfriend at the time, and so I like $1,000. I could make $1,000 last a while, and I was like, you know what? I need to find another job. I applied everywhere. I saved up $1,000. I was like, you know what? At the end of this season, because the store that I worked at was busiest time of the year is Christmas. So that's any retail, but this one specializes in Christmas. So, and I love Christmas. I think that's why Christmas has grown on me so much more because of that store, and I love it for it. But couldn't make a living off of it. The only benefit that came out of staying there for as long as I did, I stayed there for like almost 5 years, was that going to school was easy because there wasn't a whole lot of hours, and I didn't really need to be there as much because they already had a guy that ran the warehouse and they didn't need an extra guy. So I started going back to school, and that was fun, and it kept my mind off of things. And at the time I had video games and I rollerbladed, and I went to I used to be really, really involved in music. I love all music, but I think my passion is just hardcore, especially like traditional hardcore, like 80s, like all the traditional stuff that started it. But I love all hardcore. I love all music. I just, just like anybody else, pretty passionate about music. Music gets me grooving. So I was in a few bands. I did this and that, and I did all kinds of stuff while I wasn't really working that much. And I think that's what kind of got me into trouble because I was just having fun, and I wasn't paying attention to what I was doing. And I was, going to school, and like I was trying to work towards the future, but I didn't put my 100% into it. And I think that's where I kind of, that's where I messed up a little bit there, just because, I was just getting by. I wasn't thinking about what could happen. And then things got worse from there because my car at the time that I had, it died, and I needed to buy a car. So I was like, man, if I'm going to buy a car, I might as well just buy a new one. Big mistake. Ended up with a $300, payment every month. And then on top of rent and everything else. And then I was like, man. And then me and the ex-girlfriend weren't working out. So I was like, dude, I'm out of here. And my aunt at the time, she needed somebody to stay at her house because she was never there. So I was like, man, I'll stay there and I'll, help her out. Try to anyways. And yeah, so I guess, I moved in. I had the stupid payment. And I was always broke, and then I had to pay for school, and I refuse to take out a loan for school. I couldn't do it. I was so scared. I didn't want to get stuck in that rut like a lot of my friends did. And I knew what I wanted to do, but like I said, I wasn't going 100%, and that made things worse. And so I was like, well, I need more money. Like I have no money. I almost couldn't pay for school. I had to sell some of my video games, and it wasn't too bad up until like my hours got cut even more, and then it was like I need a second job. So I started applying at places, and I applied at Vans. It's a shoe store if you don't know what that is. It was in the mall, and it was like in January, I think. And they didn't call me back because I went into the store and I was like, you guys hiring? And the guy was like, yeah, we're hiring. We need help and blah, blah, blah. And I didn't get called, and I was so discouraged. I was so disappointed. I was like, man, I just want out of this stupid store at the job that I had at the time. It's like, I just want out of here. I don't want to be stuck here anymore. I'm bored. I'm by myself almost all the time. And like, I have to lift heavy boxes and like tag stupid crap. And then I didn't give a crap about that job anymore. So like I started doing crappy, and I started kind of getting in trouble, and I was like, man, I want out of here. And then school was still going good. I love to learn, and I love reading and learning new stuff and challenging myself. So school was good for me, and that's what kind of kept me out of trouble for a little while. But and then about, I want to say around 2008, I just got like super into video games again because I've always had video games around. They've always been there. I've always just picked them up and played them. But then I stopped. I kind of slowed down on going to shows, going to concerts, and I started focusing more on video games and just replaying old games and playing new games. And that's what pretty much kept me entertained for the next like 3 years, because I didn't have any money, and all the money that I was getting from my first job was going towards my car payment. And then my second job, like, oh, by the way, Vans didn't call me. They called me in like April or March, or like around spring break. And they asked me if I wanted a job, and I was kind of like, oh yeah, definitely. Like I was like, I didn't want to get my hopes up, because I already got my hopes up so many times. Like I had multiple different interviews at places, but everybody was out of work at the time. So like finding a job was super, super difficult. And it kind of sucked. Like I always felt discouraged. So when they called me, I was kind of like, I'd like to, get an interview. And so then like let my boss know at my current job that I had a job interview and I needed to go, and they're like, fine, that's fine. And so I go to this group interview, and it was like on a Saturday, I think. It was really early in the morning. It was a group interview. And so like, there's me. I'm like, at the time I was like 24 years old, and I was just like, wait a second, what am I doing here? Like I got there, like as soon as I walked through the door and they handed this paper and I start reading it, and I'm just like, oh my God, retail hell all over again. And I was just like, man, what am I doing to myself? Why am I here? Like, and to make matters worse, I was like surrounded by a bunch of like 15 and 16-year-olds. And I was like, dude, this sucks. Like I didn't want to be there. Like, I was so sad. And I was just like, yeah. So like they were asking people questions, and they're trying to get people to participate. And I was like, well, I'll go with it, just whatever. And then they were telling us how many hours we could average. And I was just like, dude, like they told us, same thing that I already knew, like retail hours. Like if sales are good, you get good hours. So certain parts of the year are good. Most parts of the year are bad for hours and getting money. So I was like, whatever. So I just kind of was like, just chill, super relaxed. And I was like, yeah, this and this. And they asked questions. I can't really remember what the questions were, but they pertained to selling products. And that kind of bummed me out too, because you had to make a certain amount, because it's corporate. So like you have to make a certain amount a week, or corporate gets all over the store manager's ass. And it's a pain. I don't know. It's so frustrating to me, because all corporate sees is numbers. They don't see situations, and it kind of sucks, but I understand that's just the way it is. And I don't want any part of it. So I tried my best to get out of it. But to what I was saying, I was just super chill. And when the group interview was over, I was like, all right, see ya. I'll never see you again. So I just walked out of there. I handed my paper in, and I just walked out. And then wouldn't you know it, they freaking call me like a week later. They're like, oh, would you like to come in for a second interview? And that's when I met my store manager, who ended up being a really good friend. He interviewed me for my second one, and I went in there and I was like, I really don't want this job. Like if I get this job, whatever. But if I don't, good. Because I didn't want any part of retail hell. And so I get there, and I was just kind of like, everybody's like, oh, you got dressed nice. I was like, forget that. I went in there with just like blue jeans, a pair of Toms, and like a t-shirt, like a band t-shirt. And I was just like, well, that's what they were looking for. I got there, and he's like, oh, I like your get up. And I was like, dang it, whatever. So like he interviews me, and he was like, well, if we offered you a position, would you like it? I was like, yeah. And he's like, well, would you like one? And I was like, yeah. And so, yeah, I got hired. I started that day, and like, I was still kind of like bummed, because I was at the same spot that I had started in, kind of different place, same BS. And I was just like, man, I don't want to be here. So I was just chill, but I didn't have a bad attitude. I was just chill. And I guess people liked me, and they liked how I worked. And like, cause I don't mean to toot my own horn, but you know what? I am a hard worker. Whenever it comes to work, I bust my ass. Like if I like it or not, you'll never hear a complaint out of me. Like I'll just work. I might not be liking it, but you know what? I'm just going to do what you want me to do, get it done. That's it. That's how I roll. That's just, my mother taught me, you don't complain about, opportunities. You just go with it, and then you could bitch about it when you're gone. After you've surpassed that point, then you can complain about it, like I'm doing now, I guess. So yeah, it was cool that like I ended up, like, if I was there a few weeks and I started making some friends, and not everybody there was super young. There was a few older guys, and they were really into video games. And I was like, oh my God, yes. Because I went so long working by myself at that other store. Like I had one other guy, but he was always gone. So like I'd say like 75% of the time I was alone, like working in the back. Fortunately, my boss was really cool and let me listen to my headphones. And so I got to listen to music all day, which was really cool. But I mean, that was horrible. Had nobody to talk to for like, well, it ended up being like 4 hours a day or 5 hours a day, kind of by myself most of the time. But then working at Vans, it was like, dude, this is cool. I get to talk to all these people who are interested in all the same things as me, because I'm pretty much a child trapped in an adult's body. No joke. I'm like a 16-year-old trapped in here, because I still love all the same things. I still love anime. I still love video games. I still love, childish stuff. And so all the meanwhile, I'm doing all this stuff. And, that's when I meet through school, some friends. I met my now wife, and we were planning on getting married in like October of '08. No, not '08, of 11. Was it 11? Yes. And that didn't work out because my first job, hours went from like 20 to 25 to we'll call you when we need you. And there was like a period of time when I didn't work at that first store for like maybe 2 months. And that's when I decided, I was like, dude, I got to get out of this retail rut. Like, this is just not happening. Like, I need out. So I was like, you know what? I'm just going to do what I've been meaning to do for the last 3 years. I'm just going to quit. I saved up all this money. I had like, I don't know, like $5,000 saved up. And I was like, you know what, dude? I'm saving it. I'm just going to quit. And I'm going to try to ride this as long as I can and I'm going to just push super hard and try to get another job, a full-time job. Because at that point I was like, I can't go to school anymore. I can't pay for it. I still have my car payment, and all I had was the income coming off of my second job. And I was like, man, stress. And then I was just like, dude, what am I going to do? I need food stamps. So I got off food stamps. Like, I was at the low of the low. Like I was supposed to have been married, and like that fell through. Like the due date was coming up, and we were trying to plan for it, like super budget it. And like, I was just like, dude, this can't happen. Like, I don't want to go out, let's start off like this. I'll have to move in with somebody, with like parents, or, like, I didn't want to do that. So I was on food stamps. I had minimal income, and I had a lot of bills. And so I was freaking out. I was like, what do I do? What do I do? And so, I live in a city, and I was like, okay, what do I do? And like, I was talking to my dad at the time, and he was like, dude, you're supposed to be getting married and like all this stuff. And like, I was like, I know. And I'm freaking out. And so he tells me, if you want, you can move in with me, save your money. We'll look for a full-time job, because where he lives out in the country around that area, there were a lot of warehouses going up. And so there were warehouse jobs, and usually warehouse jobs, they're kind of like crappy work, because you got to work a lot, and it's heavy stuff. It's hard work working in a warehouse sometimes, unless you're fortunate enough to get on like a forklift or something like that. But even then, those hours are crazy. You got to work like 12 hours. And I was like, you know what? I'll do anything at this point. So I decided, after being over at Vans for like a year and a half, I was like, I made all kinds of cool friends, and I was like, but this, you can't just be about fun anymore. I've got to be an adult now. I gotta put on the man pants. I gotta make, I gotta make grown up decisions. So unfortunately, grown up decisions meant moving out of the place I'd been at for like 7 years. My sister had moved in to help me kind of pay bills, and I helped her by, because we both needed kind of help at the time. And my brother had replaced where I was at, so that way my sister could stay. And I went with my dad, and I had to quit Vans. I was like, man, I have to leave all my friends, but a lot of them were leaving anyways. They were doing the same thing I was doing. They needed to make those grown-up decisions. And I went out to my father's, and I was like, dude, my dad's a farmer, and he works on a ranch, and his boss was telling him that a farmer down the road needed help. And so I went over there and checked it out, and he was really, really awesome guy. He really is the person that kind of put me in the right direction. And one day we turned in our time cards, and I didn't like the way their paper was. Didn't make any sense to me. So I turned in a timesheet that I'd made off of my computer, and he thought it was so cool. And I was like, dude, it's like simple, like just off of Pages, like the app for Mac. And he was like, hey, you know what? Come talk to my accountant. She needs help sometimes because I was working on the field, but it was during harvest, and harvest only lasts a few months. And he was like, well, I can get you, I could work you for a little bit longer, but it's not going to last that long. And they'd asked me to work in the nursery, and I said, sure. But I told them the situation, and they were understanding. And he let his accountant know that. Well, his accountant does the same accountant for my boss that I have now. And he's the one who does hauler and sheller mechanic work. And he works on all the major plants around this area. And she said, hey, you know what? He just lost a guy. Would you want me to talk to him? Maybe we can get you a job there. And she did. She talked to him, and I talked to him when he went in there to do his paperwork, and he was like, yeah, I'll give you a try. Cause I knew how to use a welder. I knew how to use a torch, but I wasn't like really good at it. And he was like, well, I'll give you a try. We'll see what happens. And he did. And, I just stuck to I put in my 110, and I just went with it. And now I'm like full-time there. I've been there for 3 years, and it's been freaking awesome. I don't know. I mean, I didn't get to finish school. I will, but I don't know. It was just really cool that it just worked out that way. And, I feel so blessed. I feel so fortunate because, I mean, I'm married now, and I have everything I want, and things are going my way right now. And so I'm just planning for the future. I got the man pants on, so might as well. I don't know. I just wanted to share that story because it kind of means a lot to me. Because you never know when opportunities are going to show up, and it's always important to give it your 110, so that way you're just always ready. But thanks. Talk to you guys later.